Can you say hard hats, folks? Hard hats, lunch pails, steel-toe boots.
Anything short of a championship this year is a failure. Look at this boomer right here.
You've just got so much talent here.
Somebody said we need to apologize for Jalen.
Can I quote it, John? What are we apologizing for? What did we say? What did we do?
Wow, oh
man.
my God, let that roll. Let that roll. This is a hard hat of all hard hat wins. They
On
may
the
have showed
road.
up late. They may have showed up late, but they showed up, and they
Tough
just,
environment.
Oh, man, wow, we're gonna be hitting this thing all night, folks. 114, 111, unbelievable Celtics comeback in this one. A roller coaster game. I mean, the emotions going from just complete disgust to complete shock to, I mean, you name it, everything in between. And ultimately, in the end, the tried and true guys, the guys who have been there, done that for this team, Tatum, Horford had an unbelievable game. Holiday with the big steal. You want to know why the Celtics traded for Holiday and extended him? You got your reminder tonight, guys. We got Bobby Manning in Indiana. He's going to go shortly, so we're going to let him talk. Sherrod's going to be with me riding all night. I'm going to throw it to both you guys, just your thoughts off the top. We'll start with Bobby.
Yeah, this is a tough one to grapple with because there was so much bad in that first half. But a recommitment to defense certainly got them this win. They were great to close the third on that end, held the Pacers to 38% there in the third, and then do it again in the fourth. Missoula made the bet that they were going to fall apart from two if they prevented the threes, just like he has for a lot of this postseason. It was tough to watch in that first half because they just kept hitting two after two after two. The transition was killing them. Siakam was killing them. And it just looked like the Pacers were going to overload them from inside the arc. And I really didn't love the way they approached that first half in terms of rotations, offensive approach. Felt like they were settling for a lot of threes on their end too. But it worked out. A barrage of threes, turns it around in the second half. Pacers completely fall apart inside the arc.
There's so much to unpack here, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, they're missing layups. They're missing mid-rangers. Nembhard had a pretty good look from mid-range there, down one on the second to last Pacers possession, and he missed it. So this is what Missoula's banking on, and this is the stuff where we judge Missoula, good coach, bad coach. A lot of the math, a lot of the margin stuff, a lot of that stuff he always talks about that frustrates us sometimes ends up working out, and it worked out in this one in a big way. And Horford, game-saving stuff. Holiday, who played sick tonight, incredible stuff, including the and one for the win and the steal for the win. I thought Holiday, and we've talked about him a lot over the last two rounds here, just championship stuff from him here. Like, these are the kind of plays that win championships, and he's doing it over and over and over again.
Sherrod?
You know what, fellas? You know what this game was? This was Boomer Palooza, baby, because Jrue Holiday, Al Horford, the Boomer Paloozas were getting it done. My goodness. Al Horford didn't go back in time. This was the best version of Al Horford we've seen all season long. He's been in this catch and shoot mode in Missoula offense, and this was the best version of that we saw tonight. And Jrue Holiday, as Bobby mentioned earlier, was not feeling sick. Was feeling sick earlier today, and now he has the Pacers feeling sick after the job that he did defensively. Big shots, just making his presence felt, doing all those things that have defined him as one of the best on-the-ball defenders in the NBA, came through, and they absolutely needed the most. Boomer Palooza in full effect. Way to go, Al Horford. Way to go, Jrue Holiday.
Boomer Palooza, and guys, I just got to remind everyone real quick off the top that you gotta go to Prize Picks for these types of games. Keep you in the loop even more. Go to Prize Picks, download the app, promo code CLNS, get 100% deposit match up to $100. I hope you went more on Horford tonight. I hope you went more on Tatum tonight. We're gonna get into those guys certainly. But just again, it's just I think I said the word gutsy earlier. That's totally the word that comes to mind with that second half from these guys. And Bobby, was it just a case of just not coming out? Again, we've talked about it with this team before. star player goes down. They kind of take their foot off. Pacers come out playing like they needed a win because clearly, obviously, they did, being down 2-0. And now with them down 3-0, man, that's borderline impossible situation for them to come out of, especially if, Halliburton is going to stay out. But what changed in that second half?
Certainly, they threw some more zones and defensive wrinkles in there. I thought, we talked about it a little, I think, on Sherrod's podcast yesterday. There's been some defensive stuff from Joe during this run that he really deserves a lot of credit for. Maybe it's someone on the staff there, but they're going to some zone looks that have been incredibly effective. There was a half-court trap there late in the third on McConnell that forced him to dump it to Toppin, and Toppin just kind of fumbles the ball away. There was a great transition defense moment, and that's obviously an individual effort from Holiday that stopped Siakam in transition there. So some of it was effort, some of it was scheme. They looked really good in those zones at times, and they made some mistakes there. They were playing in some lineups that we've never seen before. The one that comes to mind with the three guards, Tatum and Tillman. So
Bobby, you're muted.
It's a mix of scheme and effort here. You certainly saw better individual efforts in that second half, but you also got a lot out of those moments where Missoula shifted to some other looks.
Yeah,
guys, there it is.
Yeah,
real quick, 5 more. We got 5 more from Brian. Thank you for the super chat. Also, if you go to the CLNS merch page, guys, the code happens to be 5 more for 20% off. You don't want to forget that. We've got a lot of t-shirts up there now, restocking. We've got some mugs for sale too. So that's a quick note. Sherrod, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, well, first, it took you 6 minutes to promote the merch.
Wait. We're going to throw it to Joe. We're going to throw it to Joe real quick. I didn't want to cut you off, Sherrod. Throw it to Joe.
No, let's go.
It's going to happen. Like, might not be the last time we're down by double digits. So I like the way we handled that, and it was just a test of mindset and toughness, and I thought the guys came through big time.
Joe, just to follow that up, what did you see down the stretch, particularly about your execution and about that mindset that pleased you the most?
Once we embraced the fact that we were down double digits on the road in a game 3 against Indiana, I thought it was pretty fun. And so I loved just the approach that we took. I loved the mindset that we had. I thought we executed well on both ends of the floor. We made the plays that were necessary to win. And that's how games are going to go. So you have to be able to win in different ways. You have to be able to get through certain stuff. And I thought our guys did a great job getting through it.
Sure, the behind-the-back pass for the game winner to Al or the go-ahead is going to get all the attention. But throughout the game, that pick and pop, it seems like Jayson's so comfortable holding and finding him. Have you seen them developing that throughout the last couple of years? Is it things in practice, or is that just like rep after a game that kind of develops that chemistry?
That should get there's a lot of plays that should get attention from multiple guys, but just our offensive execution in general was good, and our pick and roll execution was good. I thought guys made the right play at certain times, whether to drive it, whether to pass it, one mores. And so I thought even when we had some empty possessions where, we got a couple shot clock violations, I thought we were playing with the right intentions, looking to make the right play, and that's the most important thing.
I think they've shot over 60% from 2 throughout the series. I don't know where it explicitly ended up tonight. What of the things that they have been doing in that area in particular that have given you guys trouble through these first 3 games?
I like to figure out. I like to differentiate the 2-point field goal percentage that were long twos versus transition twos versus layups versus paint twos, and so that 60% can be a little misleading. Because some of the 2-pointers we have to live with because they're good at the other stuff, especially with Halliburton. So we got to break that number down and figure it out. Obviously, the transition twos are layups, so you got to fix that with your turnovers and your offense and not getting cross-matched. The layups in the half court you fix by your shift activity. The non-paint long twos you don't fix nearly as much. But they do a really good job of fighting to get the ball lower and lower, which makes it harder to switch. And they do a really good job of counteracting our ball pressure by getting it low. Like first drive, and the second drive gets a little bit lower. By the time you get to the third drive, it's really hard to switch that, and they end up already having a foot in the paint. So in the first half, we didn't have great ball pressure, and they were able to get it lower. In the second half, we picked up our ball pressure, and they couldn't get it as low as they wanted to, and we had better shifts.
In addition to the ball pressure, you said you found some things that you liked as the game went on in terms of matching up with them. What were some of those things that you liked as it went?
I can't tell you that, but I know we found them.
Joe's feeling himself.
Performance of Al Horford,
smirk.
Running away mentally, physically, and what he did tonight.
Poise. Like I said, I felt like even when it wasn't going well for us, which we have to expect that it's not at times, we just kind of stayed right there. And Al's kind of the anchor to that. But I think tonight it was everybody. Everyone just kind of stayed there. And, when we got it to like 10, being down 10 on the road in a playoff game should not be anything other than like normalcy. And so we just had to normalize it. We had to normalize the situation we were in, and Al's poise and leadership. And I think everybody showed that as well.
Joe, you went with Xavier there for a bit, first in this series. What do you feel like he gave you guys, particularly on the defensive end there in the second half?
Yeah, I mean, his ability, he's a great screener. He creates separation. And he has the gift defensively to be able to play both in drop and switch. And so we were able to change our coverages when he was out there pretty frequently. He can guard different matchups because of his ability to play in drop and in switch. And so he just gave us some versatility, and I really appreciate with what he's going through right now, just him being here, and then the ability to call on him and him deliver for us just says a lot about who he is as a person. So I appreciate him for that.
It felt like, especially down the stretch, like there was just a different level of physicality on defense with the guys, more resistance. And you talk about that's kind of what separates at this level. What did you see, and what was kind of behind it?
That our ball pressure stayed consistent, and then when we picked them up, they couldn't get it lower and lower and lower. And so like they still got it to where they want a little bit, but we gave, like you said, we had more resistance defensively. We had better shift activity defensively. And we were just able to kind of do both. They test you with their dribble drive. It's really hard because their spacing is not predictable, and so you never know what type of space you're going to be in. So you don't know where the shift is going to come in from. So it's a real, like, the guys did a great job communicating matchups, coverages. We went zone, but like once we were able to figure out the frequency to kind of slow them down a little bit, the guys really executed.
Joe, you talked about being caught by surprise that you're down double digits, embracing that you're down double digits. Can you explain, like, before you embrace it, what does that look like, and after you embrace that, like what's that process?
I mean, I think you get caught up when you're down. You're just kind of like, shit, we're down, like, or we're down, or nothing's going our way, or such and such. Like it wasn't as bad as it felt for me personally. Like as a process in the game, I was like, this feels a lot worse than it actually is. We just got to tweak a couple things, and once we get it, we'll chip away at it. And so once you get out of the mindset of focusing on what's happened, and you get in the mindset of focusing on what needs to happen, then you can just kind of make the shift. And I thought the guys did a really good job of that. But like
energy shift.
I was like, look at the scoreboard. I was like, fellas, like, look at the scoreboard. Like, Dallas was down 18 last night. Like, this has to be normal. We have to know that we're going to be losing in the playoffs at some point, that we have to play through it. And the only way you play through it is by being in it. And so I thought the guys did a great job staying present in there.
I'm curious, that the very last play, had you ever seen that formation that they came out with before? Yeah, it's a really good play. I think Miami runs it. I know Indiana runs it. It's unpredictable. So we had a game plan. We were looking to execute our need 3 defense in some capacity, but just like their half court offense, no idea if that was if it was reads, but that was definitely hard to guard. They got a good shot off. Some of it is luck too. Like, we'd all sit here and say, like, that shot goes in, we're having a completely different conversation. So not necessarily luck, but like, you need stuff to go your way sometimes. So
you're talking about feeling calm throughout that whole process during the game. You took more than twice as many threes as they did, and you guys got
That's because they weren't shooting threes, Jared. Yeah,
you guys kept firing. Al, JT have both been shooting poorly a lot, and they kept firing, and they eventually came out on top. How does like that 3-point volume discrepancy help you feel calm?
Yeah, I mean, it's again, like, we didn't go into the game saying we have to double them up at the 3-point line. We came to the game saying, like, you got to take the best shots possible, and so we did a great job in the second half, and really most of the game, of just taking the shot that was available there. If you break down the defense and they're taking away the rim and there's a 2-on-1, you have to make that play. And so I thought we just kept chipping away by taking the right shot every single time, whether it was a 3, whether it was a layup. And when you do that over the course of possession, I think it gives you a chance to get back into a game. And I thought the guys did that.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
We'll have Jayson.
You're on mute, Jimmy.
Sorry about that. That was Joe Mazzulla after a big Celtics comeback win. I think it was it 18? Is that how?
I think it was 18 that they were down their largest deficit.
Yeah. And just the Celtics again put a bit of a clamp down on the Pacers in that third quarter. Really started to come alive on that defensive end, and that sparked the energy, that sparked that little bit of a comeback. And you got to give the Pacers credit too. I mean, down their best player, coming out the way they played. I mean, they were hitting everything. 21 of their 28 field goals in the first half were 2-pointers, Sherrod. You know, going back to what Joe said in the press conference, Celtics' goal wasn't to double up the Pacers in the 3-point line. The Pacers simply got away from shooting threes. I mean, they certainly weren't hitting any, but they weren't focused on those threes. I mean, to only have, I think they had 3-pointers at halftime or right around that number, and to be up as many points as they were at one point, it says a lot about what they were able to do in the paint, in the mid-range game. And for the Celtics, that was the frustrating part, is it just felt like they were getting bodied. They were getting bodied down there. It felt like the Pacers were running laps around them at points. Celtics slow in transition, slow on rotations, and it had you really pulling out your hair. Second half comes around, and you got to, give Mazzulla credit for keeping his guys, even though they were down as much as they were, keeping his guys locked in, allowing his guys to believe that they were going to come back in this game. Because the NBA, as we all know, it's a game of runs. And yeah, you can just look at last night's game, Dallas, Minnesota, as the latest example prior to this one. It happens all the time. So staying in the moment, not trying to get back in the game with one shot, but also realizing that the only way you're going to come back in this one is by playing a little bit stronger, or a lot stronger, on the defensive end, and letting your defense turn to offense. So I think that was the biggest difference in this second half. Where do you want to go with this, Sherrod? I mean, there's really a lot to unpack here. I mean, we had a hot Tatum start, and I would say overall just an awesome game from Tatum. Specifically with the way he was able to get things going. No turn. I don't know the final number on the turnovers, but really protected the ball tonight well, distributed it, ripped down boards. One of his best games, certainly of the playoffs. And then you just had, again, you talked about it, the boomers on this team. Horford, 7 threes, a career high in the playoffs for him. And then Jrue Holiday with the big defensive stands there late, coming off a sickness, and you could tell that it looked like he was a little bit sick in this game at points. Him and White, I would say, they certainly didn't look sharp, at least, to start this game. White had a nice big 3 in the fourth there. What stands out to you, Sherrod? I mean, maybe in that fourth quarter, it was all crunch time too. We've talked about it with this team. How are they going to play with the game on the line? And I think it was a 4-point game right under 5 minutes. And it fluctuated right around that difference. And the Celtics ultimately, come up big in the biggest moments, which this to me was a championship level performance. This is what the type of performance that makes you think, okay, this team is for real.
Well, I mean, not only because of how they won and just the things that they had to overcome in this game to win, but this was one of the few games where Jayson Tatum looked like one of the 5 best players in the NBA. Mm-hmm. You look at the way he started the game, knocking down shots. You look at the things that he was doing down the stretch. And then you balance that with the fact that, as you pointed out, Jimmy, Tatum had the same number of turnovers as you, me, and Josue combined. 0. Right. Not a single turnover. To go
there
for
it is 0. I wasn't sure but I thought it was 0.
Yeah, 36 and 10 plus with 8 assists and 0 turnovers, and you are the focal point of what that defense is looking to slow down. This might be, if you had to go through like Tatum's greatest hits, this game may very well be in that top 10 somewhere because of the way he absolutely controlled the action. Didn't seem like he forced anything. He kind of took what they gave him and just really put his imprint on the game. As important as Jrue Holiday was and Al Horford was and others, it was Tatum's ability to just really assert himself as the best player on the floor. That was huge in setting the tone for this team to not lose that confidence, to not lose this belief that no matter how big the deficit, they was going to find a way to get back in it. And it came on a night where I thought Jaylen Brown, even though his final numbers, they looked really good, he looked tired. This was the first time in a long time JB he wasn't as aggressive, he wasn't as assertive, but he was still
impactful. Though. That dunk in the fourth was unbelievable.
But you know what? Here's the thing.
He reared back for that one. He found a little bit of energy for that.
He hit the B button. He hit the B button and had that bounce for that moment. But other than that, he seemed pretty pedestrian. And it wasn't that he played bad. Far from it. He played the way he normally plays, but he's been playing at such a supernova level in the playoffs that this was a fairly average Jaylen Brown game. And the thing that jumped out to me more than anything was the lack of free throws. He just wasn't getting – and the reason he wasn't getting free throws is because he wasn't attacking. So I don't know whether it was just fatigue or whether there was something that he was seeing schematically that Indiana was doing that made it not a good idea to be as aggressive as he'd been in Boston. But the bottom line is they had so many different guys that stepped up at so many different moments. But if I had to put him in a pecking order, I put Tatum at the head of the chain because I thought he really set the tone for this win.
Josue, we're going to hit the B button and bring Josue in live from Indiana as well.
What a game, fellas.
Josue,
what a game.
Enough to keep you awake over there? This one entertaining enough for you or what?
Oh, man, absolutely. This is what I wanted. Something showing some heart, showing fight. I was concerned in that second half, like I'm sure most of you guys were too as well, because the determination to get the three-point shot to fall from Derek White of all people. I'm like, wait a minute, is this going to be one of those nights where they have to win this game from behind the arc? But they didn't do that. You know, I thought obviously Tatum hit some big three-pointers in this one. You know, and Sherrod, I thought he definitely just kept applying the pressure on the Pacers because we talked about this before. Like fourth quarter, the lead is going down, dwindling. That's when the Pacers will start to mess up, right? They start trying to force things. They feel the pressure. Turns here and there. Celtics did apply that pressure on defense, but I thought some of these plays down the stretch, man, the Pacers just kind of were overwhelmed by it, I felt like, and the Celtics capitalized. Jrue Holiday, the three-point play, the strip at midcourt. I thought Jaylen Brown did run out of energy too as well, Sherrod, but he had enough to stay in it and defend too. You know, I think that's the part that really helped the Celtics put together this win in the fourth quarter. But what a comeback, man. This place was, I wouldn't say it was split 50-50, but you could feel the Celtics fans' presence, especially in that second half when things started to turn.
Josue, what about your guy, Mr. Al Horford himself, the soon-to-be 38-year-old Al Horford, turning back the clock, 7 threes tonight.
Don't sleep on that millennial. The millennial still got it.
Big board, yeah, exactly. That millennial energy. Ripped down a big board in the final last minute of that game. You know what's getting into Big Al is Al Horford. He sniffs a title. I think he's sniffing a title, and you can tell he's leaving it all out there.
I think that's a big part, Jimmy. That's a really good call, man. Like just putting a team on the ropes like this, 3-0. He knows how important it is. And when people were starting to say, "Man, the Pacers are scoring too much in the paint," get him out of there. They got to figure this thing out. I'm like, they can figure this thing out, but Al's got to be a part of it, especially when he's hitting those three-pointers, which he was doing in that first half. And I thought that in the middle, you know, when we're by the free throw line, just like right in the paint, the Pacers just couldn't miss from there. And I thought he stepped up and jumping the passing lanes, just being more aggressive, just applying more pressure, and it turned into turnovers, you know. So that was big. I'm really happy Joe Mazzulla didn't pull the plug and say, okay, I got to really limit Al's minutes. Let's just go Tillman all the way. You know, I did like seeing Tillman in those spurts. He came up with a defensive stop at the rim on Miles Turner. Or I think it was Siakam, actually. So, yeah, I think that's what you do when you don't have Kristaps. You know, I mean, when you're down by 20 the way they were and you don't have Kristaps, you put other guys in the mix, but you don't limit Al's minutes. I don't think in this series that I know we talked about that should happen at some point in this series, but the way he's dialed in right now, you got to keep him in.
I don't want to cut you off, but speaking of Al, we're gonna go to Al live right now.
Okay, yeah, let's do it, man.
What did it take down the stretch to pull that out?
You know, first of all, for me, it's
I made shots. That's all we want. Come on now.
Nah, it's the Lord.
Being in this
the Lord.
position.
I thought you were gonna say that.
And
That's
for us, it was
Mazzulla.
just poise.
Not Al.
We were down, obviously big, but the biggest thing that we understood was that we needed to continue to play, continue to trust each other, and I felt like we had opportunities early in the fourth to kind of take over. We had really good looks, end of the third, and we just couldn't get it done. And I give this group a lot of credit for continuing to stay with it, despite us not making shots when we had those opportunities.
that 3-pointer from the corner, where Jayson drove, kind of drew 3 defenders and threw the bounce pass behind his back to you. Can you just take us through that play and what kind of vision it takes from him to see that and then put it exactly where you needed it?
Yeah, I know it's pretty special. He drove to the basket. He felt like he had a lane, and then I don't know how he got it there, and he had to improvise, and he just continued to make time after time the right play, and that was an unbelievable play that he made. And at that point, for me, it was just take my time and knock it down.
Al, you talk about the poise and mental strength to kind of come back there at the end, but how do you maintain that when the Pacers had shot so well? They hit everything against you guys, and on top of that, the shots weren't falling for most of the guys. That combination usually doesn't lead to a good result. How do you guys keep your heads about you to make that final kick?
The biggest thing for us was to we understood it was going to be very difficult here. They were undefeated here at home. I don't think they've lost here since March 20th or something like that. 18th. They've been playing really well, and we understood the challenge. And TJ McConnell, such a good player. His energy in Nemhard was unbelievable today as well, and they brought it. They kept bringing it, and for us, my whole thing was like, let's just keep playing. Let's just keep playing. Let's stay with it. I feel like Joe was trying to do everything and anything that he could to kind of get us going, and it was hard. And it's hard to win on the road. And I give the group a lot of credit because, to your point, when those things don't happen for us in the past, it hasn't been good. But our group, understands the opportunity we have in front of us, and we really wanted to give ourselves the best chance tonight, and we didn't waver. We just continued to play on.
Al, tonight you became the oldest player in NBA history to hit 7 3-pointers in an NBA playoff game. What does that mean to you to be able to do this for so long, especially considering you weren't a 3-point shooter for so much of your career?
For me, it's just I've been, very blessed.
Stumped him.
Still be in this position to be able to play at this type of level, to be a part of a team like the Celtics, and really, making sure that, that I'm, doing everything I can to contribute to the team, and I'm just I'm grateful for the opportunity, and again, it is pretty unique. It's pretty special, and that's why I understand that it's I give the glory to the Lord, because it's just very special. It's not me, and it's this position that I'm in right now. It's
good call.
Like to your point, it's very unique, and I'm very grateful for it.
Jared,
do you laugh when you're being told you're the oldest to do something? Is that weird to hear?
Yes, I do. But it's fine. I mean, I get
Weird
it.
question.
I feel like we do make that's a constant. The age is being brought up a lot, and
Boomer Palooza, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
You've talked a lot about how Jrue has kind of surprised you in some ways over the course of the year, but then what it did at the end there, that's almost not surprising. That's kind of
man, that was unbelievable. That was an unbelievable play. A guy like that coming full speed, him having the instincts to do that, he is just, just his instincts. He's just a winner. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. He's a winner, and he stepped up in such a big way for us tonight. In that moment, also when he got the and one, then knocking down those free throws at the end. He's a winner, man. I'm so fortunate to be playing next to him. I don't take it for granted.
That dude wins.
Kind of a turning point is the right word, but at one point, kind of realizing like we're down, but there was a realization like, all right, this is going to be fun tonight. We're going to have fun tonight. You just said Joe was doing everything and everything anything and everything he could to kind of get you guys
Winning
going. What were
is
some
fun.
kind of things he was doing in that situation?
Well, I mean, we were searching for answers because they were shooting the ball so well. They were, so to that point, I think Joe was just trying to switch our defenses up, matchups, different things. We were you're just desperate, trying to find something. So that's what I meant by that. He was really just, and then offensively, he's putting us in different positions and doing different things. He really coached us. It was incredible, just to see him going through so many progressions to so many things. And, he's demanding on us. And it's something that we accept behind him, and we're trusting him. And that's what it took tonight. We kept trusting him, kept doing everything that he was asking for us to do. And we finally were able to, to break through.
Abby? Al, you guys have now won 3 games in the clutch in this postseason. And like you mentioned, haven't lost yet on the road in the postseason. You said it's hard. What is it about this group that you guys are able to overcome in those moments?
I believe, these past few years, we've had some battles. And I feel like our group, it's, we've been through it. We understand that we've had some grueling, tough series. And this one's no different. This team is a very good team. They're very dangerous. There's a reason why they're here. And I know we're up 3-0, but it could have easily been very different. That's just how good of a team they are. And for us, we've been fortunate, and I think definitely our experience has helped us.
Al, I apologize for one last age question. You ever have real old people come up to you and compliment the fact that you're playing basketball yourself to them?
All the time. Yeah, no, all the time for sure. I think I definitely, that people are, it's not a big deal, but I would say that they, some people tell me, they feel, inspired or like whatever. I don't know about that, but I just think that it is impressive, I guess at my age and playing at this level and doing these things, but I do get that quite a bit.
Last question to Gary.
Al, you've kind of made 2 references to your faith. You're a faithful man, but you usually don't do that. Is there something special about this game or tonight that's kind of made you more grateful, or is it just kind of just coming out?
No, I just think it's coming out. I feel like I'm always mindful of of that. And the people that know me, they understand. How my faith, that's, the most important thing in my life. But I do understand where I work and where I'm about. And, it's not like I'm going to necessarily bring it up all the time. But I do want to recognize it and acknowledge it because, people ask, with my age and all these things and how it is. And a lot of people do a lot of the physical stuff that I do, the same things that I do. They do all that stuff and they're not getting those results. And when I have, promises and things with my faith that has put me in this position. So that's why I'm so grateful to be in this position right now. Thank you.
Josue was right. Josue called shot right there. He knew I was going to bring up faith.
He's been mentioning it, especially in the playoffs. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're going to get into some of the things Al said, but first, guys, we want to remind everyone that this show would not be possible without our great sponsors. So I want to give a shout out to Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app. With more than 3 million members, it's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more or less on 2 or more players' stats, and you watch the winnings roll in. And actually, you can win up to 100 times your money. That's a lot, guys. 100x.
That is.
Who doesn't want to walk out 100 times richer on a Saturday night had they played Prize Picks tonight and went more on everybody on the Celtics? Exactly. Tatum. I mean, who knows what some of these stats that you could have gone more on. 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with basketball, hockey, esports is coming up, guys. You can go all over the place here. It even offers injury insurance. You pick a player and, let's say a player gets hurt that you pick. You're not going to lose on that. They're going to give you what's called injury insurance, which you won't find that in a lot of other places. So, that's one of the perks. So, what we want to say is you want to download the app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, that's promo code CLNS. You want to download the PrizePicks app, go there, put the promo code in CLNS, 100% deposit match up to $100. It is that easy. We use it, Josue. I don't know if you tossed one in tonight, but certainly in Indiana, that money can probably go a lot further. So you might have a little bit more fun tonight out in the town. If you guys do get a moment, I'm not sure. I'm sure you'll be working hard tonight, but money might go a little bit further than it would here in Boston, is what I'm trying to say.
It does.
Yeah, sure. And you get text Sherrod. Sherrod would tell you all the
facts.
places to go. Yeah, he's got you there. I know Sherrod knows his way around. And
I ain't going to Steak and Shake. Or
nope.
Shake and
I
Steak.
love that spot.
That's the spot, huh? They always have those out here. Maybe
as Jaylen Brown would say, we didn't come to Indiana for the restaurants, I guess, right? That's probably what he said.
yeah. Cleveland was the weather. Now it's the restaurants here, right? You're right.
Yeah, yeah. And another sponsor, guys, near and dear to our heart is Game Time. We love Game Time, and I'll tell you, I'll get into it in a second. You want to download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. I'll tell you what, if you're in the Indiana area and you have the Game Time app, you might find yourself a nice little deal for Monday's game, because I have a feeling, listen, I'm sure the Pacers fans are going to be loud and proud on Monday. It's a hard place to play, Josue. You can probably speak to how loud it was in there tonight. But with the Celtics with the 3-0 lead, there's going to be some fans looking to get rid of their tickets. And I have a feeling that Game Time is going to be a very popular place if you happen to be a Celtics fan out in the Indiana area. You can browse the app. There's flash deals, which you can save even more, exclusive in-app deals. They have zone deals when you choose a certain section. So you really got to download the app, poke around. I've used it. I used it for the Bruins. Rest in peace to the Bruins. But it's a good time. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download it today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Okay. Thank you guys for sticking with us. Let's just reset. Okay, so we just had a nice little chat with Al Horford. And, one of the things that came up, Sherrod, a few times, and you said it right off the top, boom, you said the word boomer, which might be a little harsh. I think
relative to the NBA,
exactly.
he's a boomer. He's a boomer relative to the NBA.
Exactly. Yeah. And relative to the sport, yeah, he's what you'd call a dinosaur, to be completely honest.
Oh,
right?
Damn, Jimmy.
Listen, I'm not trying. Oh, we're gonna go live. We're gonna go.
Oh, there
Drew.
you go.
You guys don't want to hear us anyways. Let's get Drew.
Got the holidays.
Family in.
It's holiday season.
On the floor. How sick were you this morning? What were you feeling, and how did it feel out there on the floor tonight?
Yeah, I didn't feel too well, but I guess I just figured if I got a good day's rest or try to sleep through it, that would help me for tonight. But it's game 3 of the Eastern Conference Final, so I wasn't going to miss this game.
You guys have been an elite defensive player for a long time. Could you kind of walk us through that final play there against Emhart and sort of what you saw and how that play all developed?
I think I just made a play. I feel like he's a right-hand driver, and he's been very, very aggressive all night. Great player, had a great game, but just made a play. I kind of jumped his right hand and got the steal.
And you think you guys closed the game with a 13-2 run. Obviously, you were trying to fight back most of the second half. What allowed you guys to sort of lock in there for those final couple minutes?
Man, it was definitely a team effort. I think from being down 18, we knew that we can lock in defensively and be better, and it showed. But it was definitely a team effort.
This whole year, offensively, a lot of big moments. You spend them in spacing to the corner. You're in the dunker spot. you had this big opportunity to drive, and you just went straight at Siakam. What were you thinking in that moment? And did you feel like this was a moment where it's like, I got to step in and actually do something here?
I think I just saw a chance and took an opportunity. I feel like he was on his heels. He wasn't really expecting me to attack downhill. So I attacked him and just tried to be aggressive and got the and one. But it wasn't anything just me being aggressive.
And then Joe said that as far as managing you being sick and all that, he's like, I trust Jrue. How has Joe's trust in you helped you kind of find your footing with this team and figure out how you can be yourself here?
Yeah, it means a lot. Just the trust that he gives me and allows me to be myself is great. Just challenging me to be a better player and a better teammate. So it's been great, and I feel like it shows out there on the court.
Al and Joe were talking about like all the different things that you guys were trying to do to get through like that second quarter. They were shooting like 70%. What was that like that process of trying to find what works, going through zone and all these different things and then settling on something that finally clicked?
I think that's a testament to our season. Our season, we've switched up so many times and done so many different things against everybody in the league that we really feel like we became good at a lot of different defenses. So I think when we switched to zone, it threw them off a little bit, or if we were switching or if we weren't switching. If I was on Miles Turner or putting Al on TJ McConnell, we definitely did our best to try to kind of switch it up on them and make them feel uncomfortable. So I definitely think that's a testament to what we did during the season, and then being able to lock in the playoffs is big.
Dave locked into the ice machine. There's no one back there. This is just your second trip to the Eastern Conference Finals. How special are these moments?
It's definitely a blessing. I don't take this for granted at all. It's my 15th season, so to go to it twice, I know like JT and JB have been here too many times, but this is my second time, so I'm here and I'm appreciative, and I'm gonna do what I can to get through this series.
And then, do you feel like you're playing the best basketball you've played this season now?
I think I'm in a groove. I thought that I was in the groove too during the season at times where shot the ball well, got to the corner playing the dunker. But I think times like this, our team really just comes together and we elevate each other and make each other so much better.
Jrue, from what you bring to the game and how you play defense, what do you make of what TJ McConnell's done on the other side of this matchup?
TJ's been great. He's been a load for us. Obviously, with our scouting and all that, we focus on TJ a lot. We feel like he is the head of the snake, especially in that second group. I think to be able to come off the bench and score 16 points or whatever it is and bring the energy that he brings is huge for their team, and he's been doing it all season.
Last question, Joe. Jrue, first of all, how are you feeling now, and what were you dealing with today?
I'm all right. A little fever here and there. Slept a lot, but I feel pretty good.
And then
flu game
on the play, the steal on
flu
that
game.
Flu game. It was pretty adamant, and obviously you would disagree. Could you explain why that's a clean play?
I guess from my perspective, I thought I beat him to the spot.
He did. You did.
If anything, we were chest to chest. So, and then the ball was out.
You weren't. You beat him to the spot.
Just like a little tap with my left hand. So, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have to go look at it again. But I don't really think there was that much contact.
There wasn't.
But everything happened so fast, So.
Thank you, Jrue.
All right.
Come on.
Thank you, Jrue. We got a little Al. We got a little Jrue. We got the millennials or the boomers, if you want to call them, representing the Celtics, and they came up huge.
Yeah, that was Drew's flu game right there.
That was the flu game. The Jrue game. The Jrue flu game right there.
He didn't look great in the first half, but man, he turned it around. He didn't turn around. I mean, he led the zone when they switched the zone.
He did it exactly the way he's been doing it over the course of his career, and this is why. If you ask like any player, and I know Jrue ended up on second team this year, but if you ask any player in the NBA, most commonly their answer is going to be Jrue Holiday when you ask them who is the hardest guy who's the last guy you want guarding you? Let's put it that way. And it's Jrue Holiday is players' answers. And again, I think a few Pacers players would certainly agree to that tonight, because Jrue Holiday was putting the clamps down in that second half. There, a couple of big steals, and just again, championship level performance, enough to drive Pacers coach Rick Carlisle possibly insane. We know Carlisle is a very emotional guy, certainly on the sidelines, Sherrod, and I am being told here that he had a bit of a I'm not gonna say meltdown, but he got a little bit upset on the podium. We're gonna go to that right now. We have a
Oh
clip
man, is it Malone style, Coach Malone style?
I don't know.
Quick, you were up 8 with about 2.5 minutes to go in this game.
I just watched the ending, so you don't need to remind me. I saw everything that happened. Everything.
What to you was the difference
everything
in that? Everything?
Everything that happened, yeah.
Oh, this is the Rick I
Anybody
know.
else?
This is the pissed off Rick.
Oh, I wish it went longer. Ooh,
That's the Rick I know.
Well,
Yeah.
to his credit, I hope the question was, how devastating is it to be down 3-0?
That's a Josue question.
No, it was not. no.
There's a former
how?
from Chicago who would agree with me on
How
that.
did this happen? That's how you do it. Oh no. This is the Chicago one. that was about Isaiah. Not getting called for a carry, but yeah.
There isn't a somber enough voice to calm Rick Carlisle down in that situation. You're down 3-0. I mean, it's over. I'm not gonna. Let's
I mean, they were up 18, Jimmy. I get it. I get it, Coach. I get it. That was quite the meltdown.
He saw the whole thing. He said he saw
90
the whole
seconds. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing about this game, though, I mean, there were, I would say, a handful of 50-50 calls that could have gone either way that more times than not went Indiana's way. His team shot the hell out of the ball all game long. And their Achilles heel all season has been their defense. And the fact that they've been injury riddled. And not having Halliburton on the floor, they were able to really, I think, navigate through that for about 45, 46 minutes of the game. But those last 2 minutes, you want the ball in the hands of your best ball handler. And Jrue Holiday, I mean, if you think about it, he forced Halliburton to make a late game turnover in a Celtics win, and Nembhard isn't any better. So Jrue Holiday did exactly what great defenders do. You make the team pay for the slightest mistake. And if you're Indiana, I mean, first of all, you want the ball in whoever Jrue Holiday is not guarding, that's who you want the ball in their hands. Because if the guy with the ball in his hand is being guarded by Jrue, a turnover is coming. It's just going to happen. He's consistently shown the ability to do that. So Rick has a lot of people to be mad at, and including himself, for not just recognizing those moments. And Jimmy, we touched on it earlier, but Bobby and I, we talked about it on the latest edition of the Big Three NBA podcast. We talked about the coaching matchup and how Mazzulla has been absolutely dominating that in this series, which I've been shocked by how Mazzulla has been able to push all the right buttons at the right time. And is he perfect? No, but you look at his body of coaching work in this series, it's been pretty damn special.
Yeah, it has, and especially when you think about how he has implemented that zone defense since the beginning of the season. For situations like this, because he knew what happened in last year's playoffs. The way he was on the wrong end of a really good zone defense. I think he knew that he has not only the weapons to match that, but also what it means to their offense, how it gets them going, how it gets them in the open floor. So yeah, I think Joe Mazzulla, to implement that zone, but not out of nowhere, you know what I mean, in this game was huge, because these guys were ready for that. They had been preparing for that all season long, and that includes obviously Jrue Holiday, and what he's meant to this Celtics defense all season long, and especially in the playoff Jrue, that the Milwaukee Bucks used to talk about. I mean, I love that he reminds us this is only his second time here. Yeah, he's a champion, sure, he won a championship 3 years ago. No one in that locker room can say that, but these guys have been in this stage so many times, and I think he's just the guy at the top of the list that's never going to take these moments for granted. You could probably say the same thing for Al Horford, but I think knowing for Jrue, right? Knowing what it takes to get there, having that experience down, that's a huge part of it. Coming back to the Eastern Conference Finals, not knowing how many more of these are going to be in his future. I mean, he's not getting any younger, but I also think just knowing that this is probably the best, easily, arguably, I guess, the best team he's ever been a part of, and hopefully we'll be able to say that he's a big reason why they win the championship, in a few weeks or so. Not to get ahead of myself here, but it's on everybody's mind already. Yeah, everybody's already talking about Dallas, Boston. I know I'm not quite there yet, but Celtics should be able to finish this thing up in a couple of days, man.
I think most people would say it's a matter of when, not if, right? I mean, but with the Celtics team,
that Dallas series, they're far from over though.
If you're the Celtics, you don't want to be looking at anybody but Indy. You want to close this thing out.
Yep.
It'd be great if they could come back to Boston and not have to play another game. I don't know. I'm not gonna we'll worry about Monday when Monday comes. But tonight, we still have plenty to unpack here. And again, it wasn't all good, but we are gonna focus on the good at least for a bit. And we'll probably talk about some things that might be a little bit concerning and some some things the Pacers were able to do that maybe exploited some areas for the Celtics, whether it's the bench, the interior game, how soon, how important Porzingis is going to be to this thing if and when they do advance, because there is a bit of a trickle-down effect. So we'll get into some of those things a little bit later on. We are, I think, possibly waiting for Jayson Tatum is supposed to take the podium at some point, so stick around for that. Bobby is in the locker room waiting to talk to Jaylen Brown. So we've got a long way to go, guys. We're 50 minutes in, but we're certainly not wrapping up anytime soon. So we've got a good amount of people joining us right now. So we want to thank everybody on this Saturday night here as the Celtics take a commanding 3-0 lead. And the way things were at halftime, I mean, the ESPN crew, Stephen A was pulling out his hair and he was saying all the things that we've been saying about these guys, the inconsistencies, how they drive you crazy, the lack of, I think, effort would probably be a way to put it on that defensive end. But you also have to give the Pacers credit. I mean, they were shooting the lights out. That, Nembhard is the new Caleb Martin, I think, from last year when it comes to a player that's kind of coming out of nowhere. And he was really, for a while, the only guy hitting outside shots for them. Everything was interior. And then I thought it was really interesting, actually, just jumping around here. He was the inbounder on the final play for Indy, which I was kind of scratching my head at. I know he missed the shot in the possession prior to that, but he was hitting shots all night long, and you completely take him out of that play in that situation. I was a little surprised by that, Sherrod.
Well,
Nesmith rushed that one too. Not to cut you off, but just real quick, man.
He didn't have. Yeah, I mean,
he had time.
They lined up in diamond formation. It looked like something out of Belichick's playbook, a Hail Mary play at the end of the game. And so when you're running, I mean, you're basically sprinting from one end of the court to the other. You have no choice but to be off balance when you're taking that shot, which Nesmith was basically falling out of bounds. Yeah. Not to mention the guy was born off balance. I mean, it doesn't really matter if he's the guy's just permanently off balance.
He's comfortable there. Yeah,
right. For sure. I mean, what were you about to say about that?
Well, the surprising thing about Nembhard inbounding the ball was that he's one of the main reasons why you're still in the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah. Because of his ability to hit late game shot clock winding daggers. I mean, that's kind of what he's evolved into in this postseason run by the Pacers, and so that was a little bit surprising. But again, it in some ways it reminds me a little bit of what Brad Stevens used to do in a lot of late game situations where he would have formations and folks in positions that force you to think ways that you didn't expect. There's the element of surprise that formation had, and Joe Mazzulla, he touched on that earlier about how it was good formation, it was a good set that they ran, and Nesmith got a great look. I mean, if you're Indiana, you draw that play up, and with 1.7 seconds to play, that's as good a look as you're going to get. The only problem, or I should say, one of the problems, is that there's a reason why Aaron Nesmith was the guy that had the most room to take that shot. Because of the guys on the floor, he's the one guy that you are least concerned with making it. And so, again, no knock on him, but that's just not his game at this point. So that was a little bit surprising. But if you're Indiana, though, I mean, this is again, there's a part of the Pacers that are going to, at this point, feel as though they should be up 2-1 instead of down 3-0. They gave away game 1. And in a lot of respects, they didn't seal the deal in game 3. They were in control of this game most of the night. And typically when you're controlling a game for most of the action and you're at home in the playoffs, you typically win. And they had not lost a game at home in the playoffs this run. So this is a tough one as well. I thought game 1 was going to be a hard one for them to bounce back from, but this is much tougher, not only because it's later in the series, but because unlike game 1, this game they really had control for the most part, and they just basically and they've got the entire arena backing them, and they just choked it away.
Sherrod, we're gonna go live to Jayson Tatum, who just took a seat, and he is
perfect.
Trying to dig out of a hole for a lot of that game. What allowed you guys to flip the game around the way you did over the final couple minutes?
Yeah, I think it was one of those timeouts in the third quarter. Joe just kind of told us stop feeling sorry for ourselves. And whatever situation we in, that's the situation that we're in, and it's on us to figure it out. We kind of felt lucky that we were playing as bad per se as we were, and how well they were shooting the ball, and we were only down 13, 14 points on the road, and we still had a lot of time left to win the game. So it was one of those timeouts, maybe with like 5 minutes left in the third. We kind of turned it around.
And then obviously was quite the pass, like 45 seconds ago to hit Al in the corner on that 3. Sort of what did you see on that play as it played out, and how much is your confidence grown as a playmaker to obviously make a play like that in a moment like that?
Yeah, I attacked downhill, had Toppin with me, and Miles Turner. I knew Miles was guarding Al, and just reads. We always talk about spacing, making sure we were in the right spots. And I trusted that he was going to be there. He trusted that I would make the right read, and that was a hell of a shot that he made.
Jayson, why didn't you guys kind of relent? I mean, you guys could have easily just said, okay, let's get ready for game 4. And you guys just kept trying, even though you guys had so many chances in the fourth quarter with missed threes to kind of chip away. And it just seemed like you guys were just refused to kind of give up, or, what put that in you?
We believe. We believe that we still could win this game. There was a lot of time left. It's damn sure not time to give up, or even have that thought creep into your mind. We never thought that any time out that we had, any guy that was on their court, we knew that we could play better, and if we did play better, we would give ourselves a chance. And that was just the mindset throughout the game.
Jayson, Jrue, questionable coming into tonight, makes the big play at the end there. Just what about his performance and his ability to show up and make plays like that?
Can't speak highly enough about Jrue, right? The ultimate teammate, competitor, obviously a champion. And, wasn't that shoot around today. He was sick, dealing with chills and stuff like that. And, we've all been there, how tough that is to fight through it. And, for him to come out there and lay it all on the line for us and, make the game-winning play essentially, especially on the defensive end. Jrue is just a big-time player, and he made a tremendous play.
Bobby?
Jayson, I know over here, you and Joe talk a lot about adjustments, the whole team does. What was that conversation like before you guys went into the zone, and what kind of impact did you see the zone have on the game when you guys went to it?
Yeah, it slowed them down a little bit. But, still, when we started to come back and make a run and take control of the game, it was just about who wanted it more, right? When we were man and zone, start the game or whatever, we didn't match their intensity. They were playing,
with so much freedom and pace, and they were getting into the paint whenever they wanted. So that late in the game, it wasn't about making adjustments. It was about just making plays. Like, we had to get stops. We had to help each other. We had to get rebounds, regardless of man or zone or whatever coverage we were in. It was just a choice that we had to make.
Jayson, after Jrue steal and he gets the foul, you're kind of at midcourt, let out like a primal yell. Your coaches were all screaming. After the Nesmith shot missed post game, it seemed like you guys were kind of lingering on the court in like a greater celebration than normal. Like, why did this feel like it looked like it felt like such a kind of mountaintop moment for you guys? What was kind of the explanation for all that?
I wouldn't say mountaintop, but you watched the game, didn't you? That shit was intense. Game 3 is always, for me, I always enjoy the most game 3 of the series, like going into the opponent's home building. It's their first home game. The crowd was electric. They haven't lost a home game since like March 18th. So we knew it was going to be tough. We knew it was going to be a tough battle. And just, it took everything for us to win this game. Being down 18, we needed every stop, every deflection, every rebound, every shot that, we made. We needed, every ounce of that. So as a competitor, when you play this game, it's a very emotional sport, right? And we want to win. And you let that out, when you make plays like that.
B-Rob, John, Jared, and final question to Tim.
B-Rob.
You guys have obviously been in a lot of grueling series over the years, but to be able to put yourself in this position now, going up 3-0, one way up front, how big is that for you guys just in terms of getting to your ultimate goal here?
It's huge. The way that we've been playing throughout this postseason, I can't give enough credit to the coaches and my teammates. We've been up for every challenge. It's looked different every single night, but we've answered the call. And we're in a great position right now. Obviously, one win away from the finals, but we know for 1 second we can't relax. A year ago, we was down 0-3, and we figured out a way to force it to 7. So, we're not looking past Monday or anything like that. We're just taking it one game at a time and knowing we have a special opportunity to go back to the finals.
Joe talked about embracing the fact that you're down as much as you were. You just talked about, he said, stop feeling sorry for yourselves. What does feeling sorry for yourself look like when he's telling you to stop doing whatever it was that you're doing? What was it? Was it getting too caught up in the refs? Was it getting too caught up in something? Like, what does that look like?
Culmination of all those things, right? Maybe things weren't going our way. We weren't hitting shots at the time. It seemed like they was coming down and scoring every single time. And, right, maybe we were slow to bring the ball up the court. When we would get scored on, we might put our head down. Just felt like shit wasn't going our way. And Joe always talks about, like, it's not always going to go how we want it to or how we expect it to. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to be down 15 or 17 on the road and still have an opportunity to win the game.
Jrue's the one guy in the locker room with the ring.
Facts, my
you see
dog.
him make those big plays at the end, especially just deciding to go and take on Siakam. You saw Siakam just on his heels a little bit and attacked. What have you seen from Jrue as far as his feel for when are the big moments that can actually flip a game, flip a title run potentially?
Yeah, I think his instincts are second to none on both ends of the floor, right? Whether it's knocking down the big three or, he had 2 big offensive rebounds. One, he tipped it in, and one, he brought it back out. And then obviously on defense, and Joe gives Jrue so much freedom throughout the game of, obviously we have coverages, but, Jrue is especially the one guy who can roam or, whatever he sees, where there's a gamble or if he wants to switch the defense or the matchups, or he has that freedom because we all trust him so much, and he's been in so many big moments he just makes big plays all the time.
You've obviously not hit as many shots as you would want, I guess, particularly from three in these playoffs. You got off to a huge start to get 15 in the first quarter. Then I think you finished 5 or 10 from three, hit the big three late. Was that a concerted effort from you to try to get off to a quicker start today? And how did that help lead to the night you had overall shooting the ball?
I think just like I said, game threes are always have been like my favorite games to play in. And I think it's important, even if I'm not, scoring the ball, just to come out there with a certain level of intensity, kind of set the tone, because, it's a hostile environment. They're back home. The crowd is into it. So just trying to set the tone for our team on both ends of the floor, send a message. And, I never get concerned about my shots or anything. I always feel like the next one is going to go in, and, just always stick with my routine, shoot with confidence, make the right plays, and, it normally works out.
Thanks, Jayson. Jalen's talking in the locker room.
And there you have it. That is Jayson Tatum after a big time performance. Sherrod, he did get hot to start this game. We got silky Tatum to start this one. And real quick, I want to just let everybody know. Some people know this. We've gotten a lot of entries, but we are giving away some new Tatum 2s, Sherrod. So if you like the Tatum 2, we are giving it away. But here's the catch: the giveaway ends tonight. So you don't have much time to enter. You have to go to our pinned post on our Twitter account. That's the Celtics CLNS Twitter account. And you have to enter. The giveaway. There's rules I'm sure that you'll have to read through and all that stuff. But if you are looking for a pair of kicks, summer's here. You're gonna be outside shooting hoops. You want to shoot like Tatum on some nights. You want to shoot like Game 3 Tatum.
That's what you want.
We have to convince this guy that every game is Game 3, apparently, because it's apparently a mentality.
He's got a different feel for Games 3s, which that's interesting.
I love game. Listen, I'm a Game 3 guy too. I mean, you get it. It's the difference between 3-0, 2-1. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a pivotal game, and in this case, going into enemy territory. These guys have been good on the road. Indy is not an easy place to play. They love their basketball in Indiana. So you gotta tip your hat to the Celtics for the way that they were able to come back. But again, guys, you want to go to the Celtics CLNS Twitter account and hit that pin post at the top, and you'll get all the details. But we are giving away a pair of new Tatum 2s. So with that being said, there it is. Sidewalk Chalk giveaway ends tonight. So head on over to there and check that out. I don't know what size the sneakers are, right? You just toss them on and you just go with it. They're going to look good regardless. So, interesting comments from Tatum. And it seems like a lot of these players, Sherrod, are saying one thing that's very consistent is that what Joe Mazzulla has sort of instilled in them is not to get down, not to panic, not to be upset at the score, not to worry about the score. And there was a sound clip that they played on the broadcast of him basically saying, like, don't worry about the score. The score doesn't matter.
Keep playing.
Exactly. Keep playing. And more often than not, the water's gonna, it's what's the saying there? Water's gonna rise or something. I don't know. It's homeschool coming into play here, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's all gonna come back. It's gonna reach its equilibrium, I guess.
The cream will eventually rise to the top.
Right. So and it seems like that is something that these guys are now getting, right? Not, as Gary Washburn said, what kind of prevented you from just throwing in the towel, right? Because there were points where things could have gone one way or the other, and the Celtics would go on those little runs, and they would hit that shot, they would make that defensive stop in that second half, and it just kind of feels like, and that's the mentality that you do need to kind of have, because there's going to be, you're playing against, the teams that you're playing against right now are great teams in their own right, and of course, there's injuries that have happened and things of that nature, but it's normal to go down by double digits against a great team. And it's also normal to come back and to flip the script. And so I think these guys finally, they believe that and they play like that.
Yeah, yeah, and to your point, even though Indiana obviously record wise, isn't up there with the Minnesotas, the Dallases, the Denvers, and teams like that.
Right.
Their style of
That's gonna
play
happen.
their style of play makes them a very difficult opponent because they're so good at frankly scoring.
How
And the
quickly, right?
Celtics, yeah, and the Celtics have done a good job, I think, for the most part, neutralizing that. And obviously, not having Halliburton tonight was a factor. But the thing is this: the guy that basically shouldered a lot of that burden dropped 32 points, had the best game of his life. And when you start looking at the games that the Celtics have lost in the playoffs, and there haven't been that many, there's only been two, it involved either the team having a historic night or a player or two having the best game they've ever had in their lives. And Nebhart was in that mode for a lot of tonight. He finished with 32, best scoring game he's had in the playoffs. He was a major, major impact performer for them. And yet the Celtics found a way to win. And I think that is the kind of growth that this team needs to get out of this series. How do you handle adversity? Can you deal with things not going your way and still manage to find a pathway towards success? Jrue Holiday, not feeling well, as Tatum talked about, had chills this morning, comes up with the biggest plays at both ends of the floor because people will lock in on the steal, but they forget that he had a three-point play with about 36, 37 seconds to play that put them up in the fourth quarter as well. So you look at that. You look at Derek White did not have a very good game at either end of the floor. I thought he looked a step slow and his shot looked a little bit off pretty much all night. You didn't get much of anything from your bench. I think you touched on it earlier. I think it was 31-4 or something like that. They were outscored in terms of bench points. It was pretty bad.
It was very bad. I mean, most
yeah.
of that was from what's his name? My guy on Indy,
TJ, your boy TJ. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We can talk about that. I was going to bring that up. I know Bobby's about to jump back on shortly. I think he was just in there for Jalen. And again, it's not all sunshine and rainbows here. I mean, the bench is an issue for the Celtics team still right now.
It is. It's right.
It's not. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, it's not so much that they're not scoring; they're not making an impact. And Peyton Pritchard, I think he's carried that bench for most of this postseason, and for him to not be as impactful, he was due to have a game where he just wasn't really putting his imprint on the game. But Sam Hauser is the one I'm really worried about because Sam, he only took 3 shots, but they were all relatively open threes. And the last one he missed was just the one where I thought that you've been down by 18 points. Tatum does a great job of getting you the ball. You're down by 3. You get a great look and
wide
you
open,
miss.
Swung it right to him. Yeah, it's like the reason you're in this game is for that exact play.
For that
I don't
moment,
even think he hit rim.
I can't remember. I mean,
I don't think he did.
All of his misses are starting to kind of coagulate together on me right now. But it's getting to the point where you have to, if you're Joe Mazzulla, you're not necessarily going to replace him with someone, but you might shift the minutes a little bit of Tatum and Brown a little bit and maybe go a little bit more smaller, maybe play Pritchard a little bit more, maybe Brissett.
I mean, at this point, if you're not getting any offense from Hauser, you just might as well put Brissett in, right? I mean, that's an easy one, right? And really in this playoffs, you haven't gotten any offense from Hauser. And tonight was glaring, I think is the word. In the 13 minutes he played, I can't think of one single thing that he did that helped out that Celtics team. And not to say Brissett was very effective. That's the other thing I wanted to bring up is whether it was Brissett, whether it was Tillman. And I know that Joe had some nice things to say about Tillman and what he does when he's out there, but I was underwhelmed by what I saw from Tillman. He looks like a step behind. He's getting out rebounded. To be honest, he looks like he ate Tillman. He looks a little big out there, Sherrod. I don't know what the diet is right now.
I mean, the thing about Tillman, I didn't think he was great tonight, but I think of if I'm looking at, let's say, Sam, I'm looking at if I'm looking at their bench guys, he was probably their best bench player tonight.
I think he was, but is that more by default? And again, I was calling for him to play, and I'm glad they went to him because they were getting eaten up in the paint. I think that we might still see him again. I don't know what Cornette's deal is.
A lot of good things happened when he was on the floor. I mean, he had he had the best plus minus of anyone who played for the Celtics tonight. He was plus 12. So
it might not. Right. Go on. Sorry.
Right. He was out there when they were starting to make when they were basically chipping away at that deficit. Again, he's not a guy that's going to be a great scorer, but he gives them a certain level of physicality in a game where, to be candid with you, they needed that because Indiana was playing a better version of bully ball than the Celtics for long stretches. And Tillman kind of helped neutralize that a little bit because of his strength, because of his physical presence.
The ability to switch. Exactly. He's not in there for offense. We totally know that. They're not looking at him at all. He's there to, maybe grab a board. But I think that's what stood out to me is that it didn't feel like he could really get off the ground. And that's really what stood out to me. I'm not saying that he didn't contribute. I know he was in there for a couple of Celtics runs. And again, big body, physical presence. Indy was getting whatever they wanted at the rim and in the paint. McConnell was, again, prancing and dancing and dunking and diving all over the place. What's his name? Siakam was in his bag tonight. That guy was on another level. It didn't matter who was on Siakam. So I was calling for Tillman to play. I'm glad that Joe did it. I clearly see the plus 12 here, which shows that he was a part of some good things. But I think the overall point I'm trying to make is this bench is underwhelming, to say the least.
It is. And
they're searching, and Tillman hasn't played for a while. It kind of shows that he hasn't played in a while. And again, you might be able to get away with it against the teams out east, but I'm wondering if the lack of depth is something that's going to come back to bite this Celtics team if Porzingis either doesn't return or doesn't return to the capacity that he left the team.
Yeah. And Tillman, to his credit, he's dealing with some things that on a personal level that the fact that he's still with the team right now, you feel encouraged by that. So there's that dynamic that he's obviously working through.
These guys are human,
Yeah. But the big thing with him, though, I think when the Celtics acquired him was that he just gives them another big body who can help create opportunities for others to score. Because he is not going to be a scorer, but his ability to screen, his ability to box out, his ability to create paths for other guys to pad their stats, that's his value to this team. And, having talked with him shortly after he arrived in Boston, he fully understood that he is a player with a very specific role. And that role is to just help them win, whether it's setting screens, rebounding. He's not going to be someone they're going to look to score big buckets, but he has shown the ability to deliver when called upon. Right. People forget he's the only guy on that bench unit this year who actually made a game-winning shot when they played Sacramento earlier this year.
That was a game-saving shot. After exactly. They blew a big one in that, if I recall.
Exactly.
Right?
So I mean, he's a guy that can do some things, but the big thing is just contributing. Hey, Bobby, what's up, man?
Hey, what's up?
Bobby,
you got me?
The hair's looking good. You don't have to worry about anything. Yeah, we got you. What do we got over there, Bob? Where have you been all our lives? What can you tell us?
I feel a lot of guys just laid back for the Celtics tonight. Jalen was walking real tentatively after that one. Derek was just slumped back in his chair for a while. Tatum was actually one of the quicker guys out of the locker room tonight. That was a tiring effort tonight, and they dug deep for it, certainly, as you guys talked about and we talked about off the top. They pulled the rabbit out of the hat, as Jaylen Brown just said here. So it was a deep effort win is how they all kind of felt about it. And they got knocked back. Derek talked about it. Jalen talked about it. He said the Pacers were, some of the Pacers were turning into Michael effing Jordan out there in terms of shot making.
Seriously.
And that knocked the Celtics back. There's no doubt. They all felt like they didn't have the energy that they needed out of the top. They felt overwhelmed by what the Pacers were doing across the board. And, I talked a little bit to Derek about the zone adjustment that I talked about off the top. And, that's something Joe Mazzulla called for. It was something that made an impact. But the sense he had, and especially Jayson had, was that this wasn't really like a scheme kind of turnaround here. They didn't drop anything crazy to come back in this game. They just needed to figure out something to slow the Pacers down for a minute. And so rather than solve the Pacers offense, I think that just allowed them to take a little bit of a deep breath, and then show the requisite energy and intensity and playmaking on defense in particular that they need to make down the stretch, because they went back to man pretty quickly, as Derek said. But that was Missoula's call. Certainly, a feather in Missoula's cap. I think it was a real thing that worked out there. Jayson downplayed it. I know you guys were listening in on him a little bit more than Derek did there, talking more about like the energy and just want in this game that the Pacers were playing with early and the Celtics took over with late. But I certainly think it played a part, Sherrod.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, Joe Mazzulla is putting them in positions so that energy surge that they had, I thought, in the second half would actually create opportunities to win this game and get back into it. So the two go hand in hand. But the big thing, with this team is that this was one of those games, and I think this series has had a few of those moments where they have had some real end game adversity to overcome that put them in an incredibly difficult position to be successful, and they have found ways to win those games. And I don't care how good or bad your opponent is, when you find yourself in a need to absolutely deliver, and there's like a 99.7% chance that you're not going to, and you still find a way to do it, that creates a different level of confidence that when as you move on, you're going to feel no situation, no deficit, no adversity is going to be too difficult for you to overcome. And this team needed that before they got to the finals, because they haven't experienced anything like that of significance during the regular season. I mean, there's only been less than a handful of Celtics teams historically had a better regular season than this group. And so they don't really know a lot about adversity, but they're certainly dealing with it in this series. No Porzingis. Game one, you need a Jaylen Brown. First, you need a turnover. Then you need a three-pointer in just a matter of seconds just to get it to overtime. You get those. In this game, you're down by 18, and then you rally. None of the guys that normally hit those dagger shots are making those shots, but Tatum is keeping you afloat. And then lo and behold, you're within arm's reach of snatching victory again from the Pacers. And the guy who was dealing with chills and under the weather, Jrue Holiday, comes up with the biggest plays at both ends of the floor. The three-point play that put him up 112, 111, and then the steal and then subsequent free throws to ice this thing. So this is such a good thing for the Celtics before they get to the finals, because they're being hardened in a way that I don't think they otherwise would have experienced up to this point.
Yeah, and we talked about that going into the series, that this matchup would finally provide those kind of situations, the stylistic challenges that would force the Celtics to adjust and get uncomfortable at times. I mean, game one and game three, they legitimately got pushed back on their heels by the Pacers' effort. And you give Indiana credit for that. I mean, this is an incredible team. What things they do offensively, we talked a little bit about Sherrod yesterday, and even on the Garden Report here, Jimmy, after that game three, like, are they done? Or game two, are they done? If Halliburton's not out there, can they even survive? And you just look at the way they plug in McConnell and Nembhard and still do those things that make it so challenging to play against them. It's amazing stuff. And I know Carlisle's made mistakes here, and he made a big one again at the end there, not calling timeout during that frenetic run the floor play there where they could have gone ahead after Tatum's miss with a timeout in hand, pretty similar to the end of game one, honestly. But you basically end up with two games where you lost, you were done, 2:38 left, you're down 8. You're not supposed to win that kind of game. And to make the plays, to be able to slow the game down enough to take advantage of the other side's mistakes to that degree. I mean, this is the stuff that starts to make you feel like this is the team that's going to get it done. They just keep figuring it out. They keep rising to the occasion in these kind of situations. You're starting to see the plays, whether it's Jalen's forced turnover, the shot, Holiday's play tonight. That's the kind of stuff you see along championships. You saw a little bit of that in 2022 along the way that started to make you think they might get there. So there's certainly still another daunting challenge in front of you in the finals here, whether it's Dallas or Minnesota. But you're going to be the favorite on that stage. You've been battle tested enough. You have the depth here. You've shown it with Tillman and Brissett coming through in this series and winning Eastern Conference Finals games. You have it all at this point. And I'm ready to say it, guys. This team's going to win the championship. This team's going to do it.
There it is.
There it is. Bobby's come around.
That's the Bobby guarantee just came out. He used to do it in like game 3 of the regular season, but he's look how grown up he's gotten, Sherrod. Now he's held out. Celtics are up 3-0 in the series, going, Eastern Conference Finals. Bobby has guaranteed a title, a banner. Banner 18 is coming to Boston. Is that?
And it
is
might
that
not
what
be
you're trying to
pretty.
say?
It might not be pretty. You might end up with some wins in the finals. Maybe even the clinching game of the finals might look something like this, because that's who these guys are, right? They're going to frustrate you at times. I mean, that first half, again, like I said, was just so tough to watch, the way they played it and some of the lineups they put out there and the mistakes they made, the effort issues they had. If John was here, he'd be pulling his hair out at the fact that they didn't come out with the right kind of effort. Again, a game like this, at this stage, with these stakes, but they fixed it. And when they fix it, they get credit for it. And, you're still going to get this kind of challenge in game 4, right? I just don't think Indiana's going away. Like, their style, their offense, their pace, they're just going to stay in every game here. And that's the challenge of this series. And might not go 5-6 like we thought it would here and it be that kind of a challenging series. But 4 really tough games, if it does end up being a sweep here, is enough for me. This is much harder than they were pushed in rounds 1 or 2. I don't know if you guys agree, but that's kind of how I feel.
One thing you said, Bobby, that I wanted to just mention is, so you mentioned Brissett, Tillman. You kind of alluded to the fact that they do have depth. Me and Sherrod just talked about the fact that they don't have depth, and that could be one of the things that could hurt them, I think, at some point.
It's inconsistent right now. Yeah, and Luke, I don't know. We don't have a timeline on him. I thought they missed him a little bit tonight.
I bet you did. I bet you did.
Thought they did. But Tillman came in and did his thing. It was a rough first stint for Tillman. The second one was much better, and he looked pretty comfortable in the zone out there too. Getting steals at different angles, being in the position to make the catch when the Pacers threw it away. Just moving his feet well out there. When they put out that really small lineup, it was Pritchard, White, and Holiday, so 3 guards, and then Tatum and Tillman. I thought they were going to go to switching there, but again, that zone, and I don't even know what it was. I was trying to talk to White about it, and he was saying it's just sort of like a read-based zone out there. So they're switching their matchup, and they're just making plays and reads out there on that defensive end of the floor. And it worked well. Again, I keep going back to that because I really feel like that's where they got control of the game, because the Pacers were just boom, 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 boom up to that point, and it finally slowed the game down a little bit. So you got that out of Tillman tonight. Pritchard, again, pretty steady, consistent throughout these playoffs. I believe in him. Hauser, they kept going back to him tonight. I don't know what's going on there. He's getting good looks, and he just keeps missing them. So I don't know what they're going to do about that, but Brissett gave you that spot, backup 5 contribution last game. You got out of Tillman tonight. All you really need is one guy to step up out of that group. If you have 2, all the better. You're probably not losing a game where 2 guys step up off that bench because of the starting lineup you have. And we might see Porzingis next game, right? And then it's a whole different rotation at that point. So they're in a good place right now with the depth, I feel like. You guys have concerns, though?
Yeah, well, I mean, for this series, no. Going forward, yeah. Because
I don't know how you can't. What depth?
Well, the depth question wouldn't even be a question if Hauser had a somewhat typical Sam Hauser kind of performance.
He's been non-existent.
I mean, he's taken 10 shots in this series and he's missed all but 1 of them. And for a guy
who's
whose
Pritchard
job
tonight? Do one of you guys have the line?
Pritchard's line. Yeah, he wasn't much better. He was like Sam, or excuse me,
1 of 3. Pritchard, 1 of 3.
Yeah,
2 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists, a turnover.
-8, plus minus.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's certainly a disadvantage for you here in this series against Top and against McConnell, who's just out of this world tonight.
He was awesome.
So you're at a disadvantage here. And a lot of these guys, it's a tough matchup for them, right? And they're switching early. So Pritchard's on Siakam. I'm sure that doesn't help his confidence early in this game. They're attacking Hauser. They're putting Cornette in all those actions when he's out there. And they even went at Tillman a little bit when he first got in the game. So
did you like
it's
Brissett
tough
tonight?
No, you had to get away from that. They crushed that small lineup tonight. It was -8 right off the bat. They kept going at him in the interior, getting to the rim, and Siakam's a huge challenge, obviously, for any of these guys. And you look at the numbers coming into tonight, he was killing everybody. White, Horford, Holiday, didn't matter. And credit to him, man, because he used to really struggle in this matchup with Toronto. And now that he's playing with space and movement and able to go one-on-one against guys, he's just devastating them. So again, being able to slow it down, playing the half court, crowd the lane a little bit more with a zone. I think that all did a decent job in slowing him down. But when he started 5 for 8 in this game, he was up to 30 for 48 in the series, which is like 63% or something. And it's not like he was just laying it in at the basket every time. He's hitting 10-foot fadeaways, stepping in the threes. The guy's just on fire. And if you're talking about Michael effing Jordan like Brown was, I think this is the guy, right?
Yeah.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned that. We actually have that clip. So let's just go to that clip right now, if we can.
The
We have
ball
Jaylen
well, some of
Brown.
those guys turned into fucking Michael Jordan or whatever. And we was like, man, what is going on? Like, you know, we couldn't figure it out. But in the fourth quarter, we just stayed close enough. We just stayed right there. We just kept with it. We kept saying they're going to let us back in the game. They're going to let us back in the game. We stayed between 12, 13, 14 points, striking distance. And in the fourth quarter, we made some big-time plays. Jayson Tatum made some big-time plays. That pass behind the back to the corner, and Al hang it in the fucking loop. Like, it was crazy. Like,
this is the Jaylen Brown I want.
Win tonight.
This is the
I
Jaylen
missed
Brown
that
style.
last part.
Lamar Jordan.
I missed
Damn.
that last
Exactly.
part. I think we were all just going Michael effing Jordan in our phones, and I missed the effing lube there. Wow, what a quote of the year.
Jaylen has come.
Jalen's feeling good.
His post-game commentary has been strong.
Unhinged.
Very
Yeah,
strong.
he doesn't care.
He doesn't.
He gives 0
He does.
F.
What did he
I
say
love
last game? I don't have time to give an F about it. The All
Yeah,
NBA.
Exactly.
That's Jalen not giving an F, man. And
Love
he's
it.
right.
Good
It
thing
did
we're on
look like
YouTube.
these guys turned into some of these guys looked like MJ out of nowhere tonight.
Why is
Unbelievable.
everybody MJ?
Well, but the thing
Everybody's
about
just MJ.
the funny thing about it is that the Celtics do that damn near every playoff run. You know,
Mhm.
Caleb Martin, who's a pretty average NBA player, looked like, you know, a top 5 all NBA first teamer against the Celtics. And you know, Nebhard tonight, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, my goodness, he great footwork, good jump shot, getting to his spots. And Jalen, you know, he got some of that smoke because there were many times he was able to beat Jalen off the dribble and get to spots. So this was a really good win for the Celtics because it was hard. You put yourself in a position where you made it a lot harder for yourself to win this than it had to be, and combine that with the fact that the Pacers were playing great basketball, and usually when those two things are happening, you're going to lose, and
Right.
yet you still found a way to win, even despite how poorly you played and despite how well the other team played. So this is a major confidence boost to this Celtics team. That I don't think they would have gotten this if, let's say, they were playing the Knicks, who were injury riddled. We'd probably be in the same position, 3-zip, but you still wouldn't have a sense of what this team was about because, again, they'd be playing a team that was significantly shorthanded from the jump.
Right. And real quick, guys, you know, we've talked about a couple of great sponsors of ours. We got one more we want to tell everybody about. 3 letters for you. PXG. You might know them as the golf, you know, the golf club company. They make unbelievable golf clubs, and it is that time of year. But they're now in the apparel game. Look at we're showing it up on the screen here for those watching. Some really nice looking polo shirts. We got some dresses for the girls. A little bit of everything made with premium materials, technology designed for peak performance. The confidence inspiring looks invite all day play, taking you seamlessly from the course to the office to a night on the town. If you're in the New England area right now, it is golf weather. We've got mid 70s out there. You can't just play the part. You got to look the part. And, you know, certainly if you're a player on the Indiana Pacers, you're starting to think about golf. It's getting to be that time for the Pacers. So if any of them are watching, elevate your style game on and off the course with the PXG Spring Summer 2024 collection. Head over to pxg.com/garden report and use the code GARDEN at checkout to save 10% on all apparel. That's pxg.com/garden report, code garden report to save 10% on all apparel. pxg.com/garden report. I have a question for you guys. Is this a situation for the Celtics where it's hard for them to enjoy what's going on because they are such a favorite, where they can't just go out there and just, hey, happy to be here. No pressure, guys. No expectations. But this is almost like, I mean, Bobby, you talked about it after you just mentioned it to us. You went in the locker room. These guys are. Is it just a sigh of relief every single win, or can they feel happy? Have you sensed joy and happiness, or have you just more sensed, "Whew, okay, we got that W, on to the
I
next
think
one."
that's what it used to feel like. Like they'd escape disaster in different situations last year. Like the game 6 against Miami, it's like, whoa, we pulled that one out of our ass. Now I think it's a little more like we trusted in the process. We believe in what we're doing. We're sticking to the plan. We're not getting rattled. We're answering runs. We're responding to runs. And we're just taking care of business. And that's really, it's been a weird run to some degree to cover because I feel like there hasn't been a lot of highs and lows or crazy moments or just games where there's this level of tension and doubt like there was tonight. They've mostly just taken care of business, and there's been some things to nitpick. Certainly the offense hasn't been up to par for a lot of this run. At times they've lapsed energy-wise, but they always seem to correct it, and that's what this team I think will be defined by if they win it all. Is there wasn't a lot of excitement or highs and lows. It was just a pretty steady consistency to the way they approached the season, this postseason in particular. So that's kind of how it's felt to be around them. Like there's not a lot of like, ooh, wow, how'd we do that? Like that was crazy. Maybe a little bit tonight, but before this, it was a lot of like we just stayed in the game. I think back to game 1, especially. I think Tatum was talking about like we've been in these situations a million times. Down 3 with 10 seconds left. We're not panicking or saying, how are we going to do this? We've done this before. We've been in these spots. This team's so experienced, especially the guys you integrate here, Holiday in particular. Like he just looks so comfortable in these moments. This team does too, to some degree. And listen, they certainly have flaws. There's a lot of things to nitpick. So I've been torn about the coverage nationally with them because they're getting hammered. Like they really are, and they're winning the playoffs now.
As much as they have, I can't remember a team, and we're guilty of it to some extent too, that's been criticized as much as they have. But I think it's because you see the talent on this team, and when you go through those swings that they go through, you just get frustrated because you know what they're capable of. And it's unrealistic to expect them to never lose. But I think it's the way in which they lose sometimes. It's the way in which they play in game. And yeah, ultimately they do have the talent to get themselves out of some of those holes they put themselves in, but it's the putting themselves in that hole that gives people pause. And it's the previous seasons too. There's some PTSD involved, but the reason I asked that question is just because of the fact that they are the heavy favorites, and that's how it's going to be moving forward. That's how it's been. I think they're going to obviously be the favorite going into the NBA Finals, regardless of which team out west gets there. Right now, Dallas is up 2-0. And we'll focus on that series a little bit more, maybe once this one's, we may have some time to kill depending on how that series goes. If Minnesota can pull a game or two off there and make it interesting. But that's the reason I brought it up, is just because, if you're Indy, obviously there's not much to be too happy about now, but you're happy to be there. You're happy to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. You're an upstart team. You've got a little bit of a energy thing going on and a bright future with some young guys. Where they win a game, they're fired up. The Celtics win a game, it's just they're expected to win that game. And that's why I think the Jaylen Brown quote is kind of refreshing, because it feels like he's a little bit loose, right? These guys, I feel like they're tight, as as you might expect them to be in a situation that they're in. And that's why it's good to have a Jrue Holiday there who's been there and done that. It's good to have an Al Horford who is, a veteran and obviously hasn't won a title, but has played over 2 full seasons of playoff basketball.
That's crazy.
Add 2 extra seasons onto Al Horford's career, and already as a 30, soon to be 38-year-old.
I can't believe what he did tonight. It was crazy to watch.
Right,
Just
and
the 3 after 3 and the defensive effort. It's like he just keeps building himself up after it looks like he's broken down. Right. And certainly the 25 minutes last game helped, getting what you did out of Brissett to limit it. And have him ready to go for this game. So that certainly set up the kind of night he had tonight. But we talked about the game 5 against Cleveland, and this was right on par, or even above that. This kind of reminded me of like the Horford game 4, was it, in Milwaukee, where he had like 30 points and dunked on Giannis. That was the kind of game-saving effort he gave you here tonight. And 3-4 blocks, great energy around the rim. He just keeps, and he looks great. Like, I was looking at the photo they took of him going on the plane, like, just jacked, great shape right now, able to sustain the minutes and the load that they're putting on him. And, I think one of the best quotes of the playoffs was Jrue saying, we put so much on this guy. And I think we're sitting here on this, panel worried that it's just going to reach a tipping point and they're not going to be able to rely on him given the minutes and job he has out there. But he keeps rising up from some of his slower footed performances and having games like these. And it's the competitiveness of him. It's the preparation he goes through. And I think a lot of these guys are just rising to the occasion of what they're trying to do here. And like you said, Jimmy, are they enjoying this? Maybe not, but they know that, like, taking every step here, taking it play by play, really stressing the details, like, that's not fun stuff. It's like going and getting like your law degree or something like that.
Sure.
Like, it's not going to be a process, and you're going to get to the end and be like, ooh, damn, like, did we enjoy that?
The bar.
But you
didn't celebrate until you pass the bar.
And when you get there, that's when you're really going to celebrate,
Right.
because, I mean, this really is so many years in the making if they're going to get it done here. But it really does come down to play by play, quarter by quarter. And a lot of the stuff Joe stresses, like, even if you don't love Mazzulla as a X's and O's coach, and I certainly have some issues with him here or there. I didn't love his performance tonight in the first half, especially. But there is a mentality thing he's built with this group that's really worked for them, right? Whether it's stressing different parts of the games, runs, the little details. It feels like they've had an edge on other teams with stuff like offensive rebounding and free throws and those kind of things that go toward victories. Even some of the mathematical stuff, like, it worked tonight. It did. It was tough to watch. Didn't look like it was going to happen, but the Pacers did come down to earth from 2, and they didn't take any threes all night. So even that stuff that I think sometimes we roll our eyes at was very effective here. This has been a hell of a coaching run from Mazzulla. It really has.
Yeah, we Bobby, as you remember, we talked about it, on the latest edition of the Big 3 NBA podcast about Mazzulla and just how he has really been doing laps around Carlisle in this series, which is shocking because you're not just going against a good coach. You're going against one of the better coaches in the NBA, a guy that has won an NBA championship, a guy that has taken 3 different franchises to the conference finals or beyond.
And who really has this Pacers team playing well. I mean, they play a hell of a game.
They did, and yet you're finding ways, you're finding cracks, you're finding crevices that your group can exploit to get over the hump in a game when they needed your ability to put them in positions to be successful, to have a shot at winning this game. Because this was not Derek White goes 3 for 11, which does not happen very often. And more disappointing than his shooting was his defense. Even though he had a number of blocked shots, Derek's on the ball defense in this game was not good. He was getting beat off the dribble way more than we're accustomed to seeing happen. And so, which all different types of players having off nights, yet they still found a way to win. And Joe Mazzulla absolutely deserves some of that credit cake for that.
2 centers out, Jrue sick. So, yeah, and the other side's got Halliburton out, right? And that's certainly a big factor here. Sounded like he wanted to go tonight and was really trying to force himself to play, and they just stopped him. So maybe they let him do that on Monday, but down 3-0. It doesn't feel like that's a good idea.
You don't want to see an OG. You don't want to see OG Anunoby 2.0, where he got out there.
And it was probably the right decision, right? If he goes out there and looks like that tonight, they don't have a chance.
No, and it becomes demoralizing to the team, and it becomes empowering to your opponent because you're like, oh look, their best player, he can't even go. Well, let's just run the rest of these guys out the gym because that's what that signals for us, that we can do that and won't have much of a pushback. So
yeah, they didn't play him. You know what, guys? I want to hear this. I want to watch this Jalen quote again. I want to hear this one again. We don't get a lot of great quotes from this Celtics team. They're a little bit.
Run that Jalen video back one more time.
Say the right things, but let's run it back.
Ball well, some of those guys turned into fucking Michael Jordan or whatever. And he was like, man, what is going on?
I want that to be my ringtone.
Figure it out.
What is going on?
In the fourth quarter, we just stayed close enough. We would just stay right there. we just kept saying they're gonna let us back in the game. They're gonna let us back in the game. We stayed between 12, 13, 14 points striking distance. And in the fourth quarter, we made some big time plays. Jayson Tatum made some big time plays. That pass behind the back to the corner, and Al hanging in the fucking move. Like, it was crazy. Like, we just had a great grit win tonight.
And you had a great post-game conversation with us tonight.
It was worth the wait.
Awesome. That was awesome.
Worth the wait.
Yeah,
to his point about the guys turning into MJ, that is one thing that frustrates me a little bit. Like, you let guys get comfortable shots. You let guys take rhythm jumpers from mid-range and don't really contest it as hard as you can. These are NBA players. Like, you can't just sit there and be like, oh, man, what is he doing? Like, Nembhard and McConnell. I mean, these are NBA like, that frustrates me a little bit sometimes. And you're walking a fine line again, right? Because you don't want them taking threes. You want to have that edge mathematically. But, man, it was hard to watch early. Those guys just heat up and get those looks from two. So, I don't know. That's a balance, right? And I'm sure Joe's sitting there, too, wondering, like, do we have to adjust to this? Do we have to get away from what we're doing? And they kind of did with the zone, right? But, man, like, how many times are they going to watch random guys heat up because they're just not covering them?
Yeah.
Right.
That frustrated me in the first half. So I don't want to just live by the result.
By the way, we give you that clip unedited. You get every single word of that clip. You won't get the bleeped out version on TV. We give you the raw audio and the raw video on the CLNS Garden Report post game show. So that's.
Can I say something, by the way?
You have been. So why stop now?
Did you guys talk about the last play?
We did, but would like to get your take on it.
It was again back to Carlisle. They ran like a NFL like wide receiver route, like two guys
why
went
they have
vertical and Neesmith kind of like snuck
inbound.
I don't know, but it was crazy, and Neesmith got a good look off. That yeah, I'm gonna go back and watch that a bunch of times and be like, what was that? But
he did
hell of a play.
Yeah, they had him in diamond formation behind the line of scrimmage.
And the Celtics are just like, what's going on? Jrue tried to get out on Neesmith, but he got it off clean, and it looked like it almost went in, right?
It was a good look. It just missed. I mean, it was a good look shot. I mean,
it was a good look, but it didn't. I mean, it didn't feel like it was going to go in. Put it that way. After it left his hands.
I would say it was closer than anybody wanted. I mean, when it was a close enough shot where you were bracing for it. I mean, again, it's a tough shot going at that speed, and again, it's Neesmith of all people. So him going at that speed usually doesn't end well for anybody. But certainly, it's a difficult shot when you're running in that direction. I thought maybe they could have got something, at least maybe a cleaner, without so much movement.
It's tough because they had to get a 3 off. So obviously the Celtics are guarding.
I just don't know why they had him inbounding it. I thought he would have been the guy trying to get the shot, or at least a decoy somewhere else.
Yeah, maybe because he's not the best pull-up 3 guy. What were you sending Neesmith and a couple of your wings down the half-court line there? But it was a creative play and almost forced overtime here in this crazy game. So,
and if I'm Joe Mazzulla, I'm totally tucking that. I'm totally stealing that play because I mean, you never know when you may need it. And the fact
imagine they run that.
You can run 5 guys.
Carlisle had to run it. He's like, well, if I'm not going to run it now, I mean, no reason to save it.
Exactly. I could totally see Joe Mazzulla stealing that play at some point and using it because he can throw 5 guys out there who can knock down threes and create a similar level of confusion. Something Doc Rivers told me years ago is that coaches in the NBA, they all steal from each other. So why stop now?
Well, boys, it's after 1 a.m. We're almost at the hour 50 mark of the show. Certainly plenty that we had to talk about in this one, and I think we touched on. I feel like did we give Tatum enough love tonight, Bobby? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay, as long as we did. I don't want people to say that we didn't.
We'll get into him more on the after hours here, but yeah, he was great. I like the way he handled the struggles.
What do you got coming up
a little
for
bit?
us?
Yeah, we'll talk Tatum, how he's handled the struggles, how he's broken out of it. And he really has here over the last 4 games or so. though averaging over 30 points per game in this series on 50% shooting. He's out of it, it looks like. Maybe not from 3, but this series, as we thought it would be an opportunity for him to get downhill, get to the rim consistently, and he's done that. Pacers really haven't had an answer for it. He's getting to the free throw line a ton. It's been an incredibly effective series for him, and some defensive intensity tonight too, I thought at times later in the game. So that's all good to see. And then, do you bring Kristaps back at this point? I think that's worth debating now at this point too, up 3-0. But we'll hit on all of that on the after hours.
So you and Josue, are we going live with you boys in a shortly here?
I believe so.
All right. So if you are watching this show, stick around, get your midnight snack, and get ready for a little second helping. Sherrod, let's get your final thoughts on this one as we have Game 4, Monday night, Memorial Day. After a long weekend, settle in for a Game 4. Will the Celtics
gonna be a sweep, Sherrod?
Seal the deal? I mean,
yes.
Yeah,
it'll be a sweep. It'll be. I mean, they are.
They have to win.
They've gone through the storm of this series, and they've been able to find a way to come out on top. I mean, they're up 3-0, but if you really, Indiana could make a legitimate case that they should be up 2-1 based on how they played in Game 1 and to a certain extent how they played for the most part tonight in Game 3. But the Celtics have found a way to persevere, overcome that adversity, take control of this series, and position themselves to get some much-needed rest, specifically extending the clock from which Porzingis can return to the floor. At this point, you feel good about him being able to play the entire NBA Finals series, no matter how many games it goes. And that's a huge plus for them because they're going to need him to win a championship.
He was here.
Facts, I know.
Got a workout in before the game. Didn't shoot from what we saw at shoot around. So maybe he did that before we got in there, but no update from Missoula pregame. Still seems like it's slow and steady there, even though there was some optimism for Game 4. And like Sherrod said, not a lot of urgency now at this point to throw him out there if he is less than 100%.
All right, boys. Well, once again, thanks everybody for watching. We had a packed house, and I would say it might have been our busiest show of the season. And we'll have to look at the final numbers, but we were over 4,000 strong from start to finish. So appreciate everybody hanging out with us tonight on the weekend, holiday weekend. Hopefully everybody gets some time to remember what the holiday is all about. Obviously our thoughts are with the families and friends of those that we've lost, fighting for our country. So that's really what the weekend's about. And certainly, the basketball is a nice distraction from those things, but those are the real things going on. And again, the Celtics with a 3-0 series lead now. We're going to have Bobby and Josue live from Indiana talking all about it, going over the ins and outs of this one. Sherrod, thanks again for joining us. And Sherrod's going to be busy this week he's got his podcast game going strong. So guys, keep it locked on CLNS. There's a lot going on with us. I might be biased, but I think we have the best Celtics coverage, not in town, not in the city, not in the country, in the world. I'll say it. It's world. We've got the Aussie boys that are probably going to be going live at some point too. So keep it locked on here. It's an exciting time to be a Celtics fan. Bobby's already crowned them banner 18 bound, but certainly there's a lot of fun to be had before that happens. So keep it locked on here again. So
5 more wins.
5 more. That's a good reminder. Hit the CLNS merch page. I got a t-shirt on right now. These guys, you can buy these right now. Phenomenal. Sherrod's got Sherrod. That's it. I need that shirt. Sherrod's got the Garden Report logo t-shirt. That can be bought. Phenomenal can be bought. We've got mugs. We've got
bucket hats.
We've got hats. We've got the bucket hats. Hard hats are coming. I know I've been saying it. We gave the final approval over the weekend. The design looks unbelievable. We're going to have a limited run of the hard hats, and the hope is to get those out the next couple of days. These guys, they might have to lose a couple games. I got to get these hard hats out in time for the finals. But there's a lot going on. So, again, thanks, everybody. We will see you all Monday night. Peace. Wait, Amit's got an outro for us, I think.
No, he doesn't.
He said he was going to work on an outro.
He had a phenomenal game.
Phenomenal
Horford's out. I think it's an option. That did not sound like a chair.
It was a freaking chair. It does sound like a chair.